what would you say would be a good way to get started to, number one, build their influence, and then number two, to collaborate with other speakers?
Right. Well, I think take every opportunity to speak and
Mm-hmm.
always ask if there's someone there that is a higher level speaker and you have the opportunity to ask for feedback, but invest in yourself. You know, a lot of I
Yeah.
use shall I use the graphic of a three-legged stool. You know, a lot of people have a product or a service, right? Their mess,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have their ability to speak in front of the group. But in order to create success in your life, you have to have a platform. And that platform is the business around what you speak about. And so,
Mm-hmm.
my first word of advice with a speaker is what is your business around what you want to speak about? Is there a back end to what you're doing? Is the speaking an opportunity for you to bring people into a funnel, into a customer journey? What is the business so that you have the viability of speaking? Because if you're
Yeah.
just a paid speaker, it's one and done, one and done, one and done. Let's get you into a system where you can create a business that builds valuation in what you do, because that's going to
Yes.
propel you higher even more quickly. And accept positions in nonprofits or where you can have that viability, you can have that the title, which
Yeah.
leads to your credibility. But you know, you also, when you're in a nonprofit and you are a director, you're doing something in a nonprofit, have the opportunity to meet a lot of the big donors who
That's
have
right.
huge networks and have
Yeah.
corporations who need speakers. But you have to earn the right. Now, the inverse of that is today there are a lot of organizations that have large speaking platforms where they are geared to help young and coming speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
many of them are pay to play. So you have to pay to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, that's something that you may need to do. But start with local associations, chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, go everywhere you can to offer value to the group and to get that
Yeah.
experience so that when you do get to the point where you can get paid to speak, you have an impressive resume of multiple types of clients. Don't have 18 topics that you speak on,
Keep
become
it simple.
an expert in your field.
Yeah.
This is something that happened to me, Shelly, in my, you know, as
Did
I got
it?
older, I'm an expert in several too many things. You know, I can speak
Yeah.
to women, which I love to speak to women. I can speak to an entrepreneurial group. I can talk to corporations to their employees about personal finance, and then I can talk to teenagers. And so I have to be very careful about making sure that my communication and wanting to
Yeah.
speak to a group, I've done my homework. So I'm approaching them with the best topic for their audience. And
Yeah.
that's another thing. I see a lot of young speakers, they have somebody help them create their talk and they don't do their homework. They don't deviate
Yeah.
as
They
much
don't
as,
own it.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't own it. And I think that they're not as invested and not as passionate because, like you said, you've got to do the work and I mean, just the research and being really clear on your audience.
And that's we go through a system even now. I have a team. When we are asked to speak, they go through a whole checklist of questions so that I know before and not the night before, not the day of. I know what the audience is and where they've been, who other speakers have been in front of them, and what the facilitator's goal is. But then I
Yeah.
also ask
Yeah.
who's in the audience. Are they executives? Are they employees? Or is it a blend? Are they all women business owners who are just getting started? Are they seasoned women business owners, or is it a blend? Because
Mm-hmm.
it helps me fine tune my message to make sure, because within the first 30 seconds of every speech, my job is to engage every single person in the room.
30 seconds, right, is what you mentioned.
I will always start with a question, as simple as, how many of you have read Rich Dad Poor Dad? All right. How many of you have not? Well, in doing that, it's a simple question, but physically, every person in the room has engaged with me.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout my talk, I know a lot of speakers who they never include the audience. They just regurgitate on them. And that's, I do a lot of speakers training, and all my clients, I give them media training as well, is ask the questions, get the audience engaged. Right.
And the more you know, like you mentioned, you have a checklist, and that is a great tip for our audience, because I think a lot of speakers, they're so busy and they stay, focused on what they're going to be talking about in their presentation, but they don't really put a lot of time into, okay, let's take a look at, having that checklist so that you can get that information up front. So when you do deliver, I mean, it's just going to be that much easier and engaging.
Well, I'll share a story with you that could have been very embarrassing for me. I had the incredible opportunity to go speak at the President's Forum in Europe, right? And CEOs of companies of all over Europe. And it was an incredible opportunity. I loved it. 2,000 people, 2,500 people.
That's a lot.
Yes.
A lot of people.
And all the information talks about CEOs. Well, luckily I had like a pre-talk interview, and I said, so based on the information I've seen, the room are all CEOs or all, leaders, decision makers. And at that point, I found out, no, there's probably 35% of the room are entrepreneurs just getting started. And it's like, okay, that changed my whole talk. Yes. Because, it's one thing. I can be zeroed in. If I got a room full of CEOs, it's a whole different talk, because they're responsible for a lot of lives. And I can go into the level of, the importance of financial education support and training for your employees. That's a very important topic, but not if half the room are entrepreneurs just getting started. And so it was very important for me to have that face-to-face conversation about making sure I understood how I can best be prepared to move the people in the room.